I was watching Hatman's video where he was talking about TNT Sport, with the exception of Darren Fletcher, who is the main commentator for TNT Sport in terms of the boxing anyway. I think he does football as well. But everyone was picking, apart from him, Anthony Joshua to win this fight. In spite of the fact that Daniel Dubois is a Queensbury fighter and TNT is Queensbury's network. The same way Boxer is Sky's and the Zone is Matchrooms, you would expect the network to be a little bit more biased in favor of the home fighter. Certainly, when you look at like the Zone or Sky Sports, they can be. You know, when it comes to the Zone, Tony Bellew does tend to. I mean, he doesn't really shy away from the fact that he'll always seem to favor the house fighter. Very seldom, I think he goes against the house fighter, and you'll often see that with Sky. Same thing. I mean, with Sky, I had to laugh because I was thinking of examples, and the first example that comes to mind with Sky was back with the Matchroom days. And do you remember Johnny Nelson is? I've always said this about Johnny Nelson. For someone who was a former fighter, he makes a very good host. He makes a very good host, but he doesn't make a very good an analyst. Analyst, I should say, doesn't make a very good analyst, because this is a guy who has said that Tony Bellew is technically better than Alexander Usyk. This is a guy who called Alexander Usyk a fairly basic southpaw, and just for me, the best of the best. Because the irony of it, and I mean no disrespect to this particular fighter, but Johnny Nelson is a man who said that James Tennyson would knock out Tank Davis. And I've said on live streams that before, that's one of the sayings where your mind blows. And people have messaged me on Twitter, and or X as it's called now, and they've commented in live streams before saying that like they'd be fairly new into boxing in terms of being religiously hardcore. So some subscribers I have might have only really got properly into boxing and listening to videos maybe in the last year or so. And they seriously say, did he actually say that? Or are you not joking? And I'm like, well, I'm not actually joking. He did say that. And the real irony of it is that in the very next fight, he jinxed him. He absolutely jinxed poor James Tennyson, because the very next fight against Giovanni Stratfon, Tennyson got knocked out in the first round. Imagine that. So it's common for the most part anyway, networks to be biased in favor of their own fighter. And actually, if you want to go back and look at a good example, and this is a strange example because this was an in-house fight, so it was even weirder, and this is why I still think Joe Joyce maybe needed to reassess his situation after this, but he didn't. Do you remember in 2019? Now, in the year 2019, Daniel Dubois was still a prospect. There was talk of him fighting Nathan Gorman, which he ultimately did. And after he beat the dispatch of Nathan Gorman, the talk then was on Joe Joyce. They wanted to do the Joe Joyce fight. They were trying to do it for an EBU title. They were trying to do it in early 2020. And whenever Dubois would fight, or vice versa, Joe Joyce would fight, if they weren't in the same card, one or the other, more so Joe Joyce, would be doing punditry for TNT, BT Sport, as it was then known. And to see the way people like Paul Dempsey were behaving and were so antagonistic towards Joe Joyce, you would swear that he was a matchroom fighter, because obviously boxer wasn't really a thing then. You would swear he was a matchroom fighter who TNT had, or BT Sport had, on their books, because they weren't shying away from the fact that Dubois is our guy, and we want him. We're all for him. And when Joe Joyce did beat Dubois, it was as if, again, he was a matchroom fighter coming into Queensbury and then leaving. He was in-house. So this one right here, where they're all picking Anthony Joshua, I mean, I'm not surprised, but it really shows the perception people have on this fight. And if you look, not even with TNT, if you look elsewhere across, other forms of, media, mainstream media in terms of sport, you have people like Simon Jordan, who will still say when he's asked, who are you picking between Fury and Usyk? Fury, why? Well, I picked him first time. He doesn't elaborate on any of the reasons. He doesn't give a reason. He just picks Fury because Fury is his guy for whatever reason. But with this fight, Anthony Joshua, even TalkSport, and they're very pro Queensbury. Even they're looking at this fight and not really giving Dubois much of a chance. That really is the way it seems. And the perception of this fight, Dubois is the champion. He's going in off the back of some good form and better wins. Certainly better wins. But everyone, myself included, I'm minor in the grand scheme of things. My channel for boxing is a decent size, but it's nothing in comparison to TNT or Talksport or anything like that, nothing of the sort. But when I see these big guys again, some of them who would be, you think they would be biased towards Dubois, consciously or subconsciously, but they're not. It really does show the perception of this fight really is Joshua's going to win. And I think that if I look and I see comments on my videos or I see comments on YouTube and stuff like that, other people's channels, it really is I say bizarre. Like, it's not bizarre people picking Joshua to win, far from it, but the perception is so in Anthony Joshua's favour. It's crazy. And, the funny thing is, people would look at this fight, and with the way people's perception is of it, if Dubois did win, it would be a big upset. Even though Dubois, big, strong, young, hard-punching heavyweight, is it really that big of an upset? With the perception people have of it, yeah, it would be. I saw more people talking about, maybe I'm just not watching enough videos of, other interviews and stuff like that, but I saw more people kind of trying to, and again, maybe they were trying to sell, the fight to, an audience because it was on an unsociable time. More people picking up Andy Ruiz when he was going in there to fight Anthony Joshua the first time, on short notice at that, than Daniel Dubois. It really does show that people are looking at this fight and they're thinking Dubois has no chance. Because again, some of these people, you would imagine they would be familiar with Dubois. They would have seen some, maybe if you're talking about TNT, the likes of, say, Richie Woodall, Steve Bunce, they would have seen all of his pro fights. All of them. And they're still picking Anthony Joshua. That really says it all, doesn't it? That really says it all. Joshua will probably go into this fight. It has such... I'm not going to say it's going to be the exact same as this fight, certainly not. But it has a Klitschko-Joshua feel to it, doesn't it? Where you have the old master in Vladimir Klitschko. And Vladimir Klitschko was definitely doing the mind games in there with Anthony Joshua. And Joshua was falling for them. Joshua was being the yes, Mr. Klitschko. Do you remember it was one of the face-offs where I think they were holding their arm out and Klitschko was like straightening up Joshua's arm? It was a real, master-student. Now, Joshua on fight night, well, the student overcame the master. But I remember at the time looking at that thinking, that is not the way you want to be doing it with Vladimir Klitschko. He loves that. You want to be doing what Tyson Fury did and just getting under his skin and making him question himself. If you're going to give Vladimir Klitschko all that respect, he is going to absolutely eat you alive. Mentally, anyway. Joshua didn't happen to him. It has that feel. It's like Joshua sees himself as the master, and, as he said, he calls Daniel Dubois a boy. It has that feel, I don't think Daniel Dubois though has a chance really in the grand scheme of things, obviously nor does the majority of boxing media, but Saturday night we'll soon find out. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you surprised that pretty much the overwhelming majority of certainly kind of people in the boxing media and the sports media are picking Anthony Joshua, even some of them who would be familiar with Dubois, and some of them, again, Simon Jordan and the likes, who would be very pro-Queensberry. Again, Simon Jordan is someone who is picking Tyson Fury for the sake of it, not based upon anything, and just, I picked the first time, I'm picking him that time. Yeah, well, there have been plenty of rematches where the first fight was fairly one-sided. That'd be like saying, I picked Wilder in the second fight against Tyson Fury, well, I'm going to pick him in the third fight. Why are you going to pick him? Oh, well, I picked him the first time. And he got annihilated. So why are you picking him again? Well, no, I don't know. Please elaborate. Oh, you're not gonna. Brilliant. So that's kind of how it is. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you surprised, or do you think that no, like us all, we're looking at this fight thinking there's only one winner? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could, and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Peace.